Yes, over there. Yes.
One moment. I think you are back on this side. The child is so foreign to understand.
In the early stage of your presentation, you showed us the picture with all the percentage of the productivity growth in several countries. You told us that the small countries had a very high percentage of growth. But what was the specific project or services, for example, within these countries that make them powerful to grow like that? China was almost on the right side of the graphic. What made China grow in several years to 12%, for example? What were the core things China worked on to make it profitable like that?
Yes, well, that's a great question. It actually is not just a single action. It's actually an ecosystem of actions and decisions. You know, if you go to China, if you see what's going on there, you'll find out that an important source of competitiveness of the Chinese actually started a long time ago, when they started to open their borders to foreign companies to form joint ventures. Now, what was very interesting in China, 10 years ago, when they started to open their borders, is that if you want to establish a company in China, you cannot do it alone. You have to have at least a 50% of share ownership between a Chinese person and a foreign company. But with a very, very aggressive clause in your contract, which was a certain process for technology transfer. So, interesting enough, Chinese are great as the Japanese were at copying and adapting and adopting new technologies. So they formed the joint ventures, they learned how to manufacture, and the other part is that they made a big bet. They decided that they will use their strength, their economies of scale, to become the manufacturer, the factory of the world. Okay? So, the other aspect that happens in China, which is very interesting, is that the private sector and the public sector are somehow seamless. I went to a factory of basically frets, of acrylic frets in China. It was a company that had about 80,000 employees, a plant with 80,000 employees. In terms of the capital investment, in that company it was about 3 billion. And analyzing their operations as a case study, when I was there for a couple of months in Zhaozhong University, I realized that the Chinese have a very big advantage. They don't have fixed costs. The land was given by the government. They didn't have to spend any money in land. Electricity and water is highly subsidized. And whatever fixed costs they are spread in a brutal volume of production, which makes fixed costs a very minimal component of their unit costs. On top of that, they keep their currency undervalued, making them more competitive abroad. Okay? However, what made them really competitive beyond the price has been the ways they have been able to collaborate with foreign firms to learn their technologies. Okay. So they're in fast pace, they're moving fast. But I'm not sure if their strategy for growth is really sustainable over time. Because now Chinese are creating a middle class, an educated middle class, that could actually at some point challenge the power of the central government. Okay? So they've done a lot of things, and they have developed ways to internationalize their operations. But socially speaking, it's not such a stable country. Okay. But let me jump into India, which I think is a more interesting case. India, they didn't bet on becoming the factory of the world, but the back office of the world. Okay. And what's interesting, I've been to India several times, and what was really interesting there is to find out that maybe for India, cheaper labor is an important part of their competitive advantage, but that's not the most important one. Is the fact that whenever you visit, high-tech city in Bangalore, you'll find out that in one level, you'll find Indian people speaking, English with an Irish accent. In the next level, you will find Indian people speaking Spanish with a Spanish accent. But you will find out not just that the same person who's actually a customer representative, whenever he doesn't have calls to take care of, he will actually run some maintenance in a mainframe that is located in Hawaii. Or if there is no job for him there, that same person will actually be writing code for a company in Australia. So it is not really just the advantage of cost, but the advantage of having a highly skilled worker that could be multitasking. Okay? So it's very, very sophisticated skills. But at the end of the day, it's about sophisticating your business. Chinese sophisticated their business by learning new technologies and creating expertise in how to exploit economies of scale.